Cruising is often sold as the ultimate dream vacation. You picture yourself lounging on sun-soaked decks, sipping colorful cocktails with tiny umbrellas, while waiters in crisp uniforms greet you with endless smiles. There are glittering theaters with Broadway-style shows, buffets that stretch further than your eyes can see, and cabins that feel like floating hotel rooms. On the surface, it's luxury, excitement, and comfort all rolled into one. But behind that polished image is another side of life at sea that most passengers never notice. It's a hidden world where staff work long hours in tight spaces, where every move you make is quietly tracked, and where the fun often comes with strings attached. Former crew members, people who lived these experiences day after day, have shared eye-opening secrets that cruise companies would rather keep tucked away. Some of these confessions are surprising, some are amusing, and a few might even change the way you plan your next trip. From casinos that quietly tilt the odds against you, to the one cabin type that can turn your dream vacation into a noisy nightmare, these stories reveal the cruise industry's best-kept secrets. Stick around until the very end, because after walking through all the shocking truths, we'll end with something uplifting, a reminder of why, despite the challenges, so many crews still say the job is worth it. So grab your boarding pass, find a seat by the rail, and let's set sail into the 9 secrets of cruising you were never meant to know. Number 1. Passenger profiling and monitoring. If you think no one is paying attention to you on board, think again. The moment you book your trip, a kind of silent tracking begins. That little plastic card you're given at check-in, or the digital medallion some lines now use, isn't just a key to your cabin. It's your ID, your credit card, and your access pass rolled into one. Every time you swipe it to buy a drink, order a coffee, or enter an event, that action gets logged. Over the course of a week, the cruise line builds up a detailed picture of what you like, where you spend your time, and even how much money you're willing to part with. But the technology is only half the story. Human observation fills in the gaps. One former bartender explained how he was asked to memorize the names and favorite drinks of the ship's top spenders before the first evening rush even began. Imagine walking into a bar and, without saying a word, the bartender greets you by name and sets down your preferred cocktail. It feels magical, almost like VIP treatment. Yet behind the curtain, it's part of a carefully designed system to make you feel valued and, hopefully, encourage you to spend more. Dining staff do the same thing. They're told to notice if you keep asking for the same table or if you prefer certain foods. Cabin stewards sometimes exchange notes about passengers who are particularly kind or particularly demanding. All those small details come together into a rough profile of who you are. What happens with that information? It often shapes how you're treated. VIPs and heavy spenders might receive surprise perks, like a free dessert or a bottle of wine in their cabin. On the flip side, guests known for constant complaints or difficult behavior may find their requests handled more cautiously, with staff making sure everything is documented. The unspoken lesson: your reputation travels quickly on a ship. Treating the crew with respect and tipping fairly isn't just polite. It can genuinely change how smoothly your trip goes. Many seasoned cruisers will tell you that a warm smile, a thank you, and a small tip can work wonders. Sometimes it even leads to little upgrades or special treatment that never appears in any brochure. Number 2, the casino isn't what it seems. Step into a cruise ship casino and it feels like you've suddenly walked into a mini Las Vegas. The lights are glowing. The slot machines are buzzing. And every now and then you hear a cheer from across the room as someone wins a jackpot. There's free champagne being handed out, dealers calling you over with a smile, and music pumping in the background. On the surface, it looks like the perfect place to test your luck while you're at sea. But according to former dealers and casino staff, things aren't as glamorous or as fair as they appear. Many passengers step into a ship's casino thinking the odds are the same as back home in Las Vegas or Atlantic City. In reality, the odds are often tilted much more heavily in the house's favor. Here's why. On land, casinos are tightly regulated by gaming boards, especially in places like Nevada. Every slot machine, every table game must meet strict standards for fairness and payout percentages. On a ship, especially once it sails into international waters, the rules become much looser. Yes, the big cruise lines follow internal guidelines modeled after Nevada law, but there's no independent inspector checking every single machine while you're out in the middle of the ocean. And this is where the secret comes in. Many modern cruise ships now use server-based slot machines. That means the odds, the actual payout percentages, aren't locked into the machine itself. They can be adjusted remotely by the casino manager. It's not illegal, but it does mean the odds can be set lower than what you'd normally see in land-based casinos. One former dealer even admitted that the slots at sea often pay out less generously than the ones you'd find at a roadside gas station. Shocking, right? Add to that the fact that table games are also stacked. For example, on many ships, blackjack doesn't pay the traditional 3-2. Instead, it's often reduced to 6-5, which may not sound like much, but actually increases the house edge significantly over the course of play. So what does that mean for you as a passenger? Well, sure, people do win. You'll see jackpots announced, you'll see winners celebrating, and sometimes guests even get free cruises as rewards. But the truth is that the casino is designed very carefully to take in far more than it gives out. Thousands of passengers quietly lose money every night, all while thinking they're playing on a level field. The takeaway here is simple. Don't view the casino as a way to make money. Think of it as entertainment. If you enjoy the thrill of the game, go ahead and play, but set yourself a strict budget before you even step onto the floor. Decide in advance how much you're comfortable losing, and once that money is gone, walk away. Another smart tip? Stick to games where the odds are easier to understand and track. Lower stakes blackjack or poker tables are far easier to manage than the flashy slot machines, where you have no control over the outcome. And if you really want to stretch your playtime without draining your wallet, smaller table games are the way to go. Bottom line, enjoy the casino for the fun, the lights, and the atmosphere. But don't let it eat up your vacation budget. The house always wins. And on a cruise ship, that's truer than ever. Number 3, the food isn't always fresh. One of the biggest highlights of any cruise is the food. From the moment you step on board, you're surrounded by endless buffets, elegant dining rooms, and late-night pizza counters ready to serve you at 2 a.m. The variety is staggering. Lobster tails, steaks, fresh-baked bread, mountains of desserts. It all looks picture-perfect, almost too good to be true, and in a way, that's exactly the point. Behind the scenes, things aren't quite as fresh and gourmet as the brochures make it seem. According to former kitchen staff, while plenty of meals are cooked fresh on board, a large percentage of the ingredients are shipped to the vessel in frozen form. Take seafood, for example. That lobster tail that looks like it came straight from the ocean? Chances are it was frozen weeks before it ever hit your plate. The same goes for much of the beef, chicken, and even specialty items like kosher meals. Why? Logistics. A cruise ship is basically a floating city feeding thousands of people every single day. They can't restock as easily as a restaurant on land, so freezing is the only way to keep up with demand while preventing food spoilage. But it doesn't stop there. Former crew reveal that a lot of buffet staples aren't quite what you think. Scrambled eggs, for instance, often come from liquid egg cartons rather than freshly cracked shells. Many pastries and bread start as frozen dough, baked fresh only when needed. To most passengers, the difference is invisible, but once you know, you can't unknow. Now, this isn't about cutting corners in a bad way. In fact, cruise kitchens are marvels of efficiency. Feeding thousands of people from a compact galley requires an almost military-level operation. Every inch of storage space matters. Every cooking schedule is carefully timed, and freezing food is the only way to make it possible. But it does mean that not everything is as gourmet as the glossy photos suggest. Here's what seasoned cruisers have learned. There's a big difference in quality between the free dining options and the specialty restaurants. The main dining hall might serve juice from concentrate, while the steakhouse charges extra but serves better cuts of meat and freshly squeezed juice. You really do get what you pay for. So how do you eat like an insider? Simple. Go where the food is made in front of you. At the buffet, skip the pre-prepared trays that have been sitting under heat lamps and head for the made-to-order stations. The omelet bar at breakfast, the pasta station at lunch, or the stir-fry grill at dinner. These spots almost always use fresher ingredients, and you can watch the chef prepare your meal right in front of your eyes. So, yes, the food is abundant, and yes, much of it tastes great. But now you know the truth. Behind that impressive spread is a frozen and thawed system that keeps the ship running like clockwork. And with a little insider knowledge, you can still make sure you're getting the freshest bites on board. Number 4. Excursions aren't always safe. One of the most exciting parts of any cruise is the chance to explore new destinations. You dock at a beautiful port, step off the ship, and suddenly you're surrounded by beaches, markets, and exotic adventures waiting to happen. The cruise line offers dozens of excursions. Swimming with dolphins, zip-lining through the jungle, ATV rides, snorkeling trips. The list goes on. On paper, it all sounds perfect. Safe, fun, well-organized, and tailored just for tourists. But here's the truth. Not all excursions are created equal, and some come with risks that most passengers never think about. Former crew members and seasoned travelers warn that many of these excursions aren't actually run by the cruise line at all. Instead, they're handled by third-party operators in each port. The cruise company simply acts as the middleman, taking a big cut of the fee and letting locals run the show. That means the safety standards can vary wildly depending on where you are. For example, an ATV tour in the Caribbean might not have the same strict safety regulations you'd expect in the United States or Europe. Helmets may not be properly fitted, vehicles may not be well maintained, and local guides may not be trained in handling emergencies. The same goes for snorkeling and scuba trips. Some boats are in excellent condition, while others are barely seaworthy. Even excursions that seem harmless can be risky. Zip-line courses may not be inspected regularly. Horseback riding tours might use animals that aren't properly trained for beginners. And let's not forget crime. In certain ports, tourists stepping off the ship become easy targets for scams, pickpockets, or worse. Now, cruise lines will tell you that if you book through them, you're protected, that they've vetted the operators, and in many cases that's true. If something goes wrong, the ship will usually wait for you if you're on an official cruise excursion. But if you book privately through a local vendor, you take on the risk. If you're late getting back, the ship won't wait. It'll sail without you. So how do you stay safe while still enjoying the adventure? Here are a few insider tips. Research ahead of time. Don't just rely on the cruise brochure. Look up reviews of specific excursions and operators before you go. Stick with reputable tours. If you're trying something high-risk, like scuba diving or ATV riding, pay extra for an operator with solid safety ratings. Trust your gut. If something feels off when you arrive, equipment looks worn out, staff seem unprepared, don't be afraid to walk away. Stay aware of your surroundings. Even in tourist-heavy areas, keep your belongings close and avoid flashing cash or expensive jewelry. Excursions can be the highlight of your cruise, giving you memories that last a lifetime. But they can also be the riskiest part of the entire trip. Remember, once you step off the ship, you're no longer in the cruise bubble. You're in the real world, with all its beauty, excitement, and dangers. Number 5. The crew has secrets too. When you step onto a cruise ship, It feels like a floating paradise. Smiling waiters serve endless food, your cabin attendant folds towel animals on your bed, and the entertainment staff always seem full of energy. But here's what most passengers don't realize. Behind the polished smiles and professional service, the crew has a whole other world that guests almost never see. Cruise ships are like small cities at sea, and just like any city, there's a lot happening behind closed doors. Crew members live in shared quarters below deck, often crammed into tiny rooms with barely enough space for 2 people. Their shifts can be brutally long, sometimes 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week for months on end. And while passengers are enjoying luxury buffets and poolside cocktails, the crew cafeteria often serves very basic meals. But it's not just about tough working conditions. There are secrets the crew keep from passengers, sometimes for their own protection and sometimes because it's simply part of ship culture. For example, many crew members have to deal with unruly guests, drunk passengers causing scenes, people sneaking into restricted areas or even trying to pick fights. Most of the time, the crew handles it quietly, without letting the rest of the ship know. Then there's the hidden nightlife. Once passengers are asleep, the crew has their own parties deep below deck. They've got their own bars, their own social events, and yes, sometimes things get wild. Relationships form quickly, especially since people live and work together in such close quarters. There are even stories of secret romances between crew and passengers, though those are strictly against the rules and can get someone fired instantly if caught. Another secret? Crew members sometimes know more about you than you think. They see you at dinner, in the hallways, even when you don't notice. Cabin stewards, for example, know your routines, your habits, and sometimes even your secrets just from what you leave lying around. It's not creepy, it's just part of the job. But it's a reminder that privacy on a ship is limited. While these cases are rare, insiders claim they do happen. And cruise lines do everything they can to keep them quiet. So next time you cruise, remember this. The friendly faces serving you drinks and cleaning your cabin are real people with their own struggles, friendships, dramas, and yes, secrets. Treat them with respect, because without the crew, the entire cruise experience would fall apart. Number 6, cruise ships aren't as clean as they look. At first glance, cruise ships shine like luxury hotels. Gleaming handrails, spotless lobbies, and pools that sparkle in the sun. But behind the scenes, ex-crew members say it's not always as pristine as it appears. Think about it. Thousands of people are crammed into a floating city, sharing buffets, bathrooms, gyms, and pools. It's the perfect recipe for germs to spread, and outbreaks do happen. The most infamous? Norovirus. It can sweep through a ship like wildfire, leaving hundreds of passengers sick in just a couple of days. While cruise lines work hard to control it, former staff admit that cleaning standards can vary depending on the department, the ship's age, and even how close the ship is to its next health inspection. For example, you might notice hand sanitizer stations at the buffet, but what you don't see is how often tongs, trays, and serving surfaces are wiped down, or how rushed kitchen staff can be when turning food over quickly. Ex-galley workers confess that when things get busy, speed often wins over thoroughness. That salad bar that looks fresh? Some items could be recycled leftovers from the previous meal, dressed up to look new. Cabin cleaning has its own shortcuts, too. Stewards are assigned multiple rooms with strict time limits, meaning some areas get a quick wipe instead of a deep scrub. And yes, there are stories of the same rag being used for the bathroom counter and the nightstand. Not exactly the picture-perfect cleaning guests imagine. The pools and hot tubs. They're filtered, sure, but on crowded days, the water can get murky fast. And with so many people hopping in and out, it's almost impossible to keep things perfectly sanitary at all times. Crew members say the best time to swim is early in the morning before the crowds arrive, when the water is at its cleanest. Even the air you breathe can be less than ideal. But the takeaway is simple. Don't assume everything you touch is spotless. Wash your hands often, use sanitizer stations, avoid eating food that looks like it's been sitting out too long, and when possible, choose freshly prepared dishes over the buffet trays. A cruise can still feel like paradise, but knowing the reality helps you stay a step ahead and avoid spending your vacation in the ship's medical center. Number 7. Cruise ship security isn't foolproof. Cruise ships may feel like floating fortresses, but insiders say the reality is more fragile than most passengers realize. You've got cameras in every hallway, uniformed officers stationed near the gangway, and scanners at the entrance when you board. It all looks official, but ex-crew admit the system isn't nearly as airtight as it seems. For starters, those security scanners, they're not as strict as airport checkpoints. Crew and passengers alike have smuggled things on board that technically shouldn't pass through. Everything from alcohol hidden in mouthwash bottles to items that could pose real risks. Most of the time, staff are more focused on keeping the boarding lines moving than inspecting every single bag thoroughly. Then there are the cameras. Yes, there are hundreds of them, but they can't cover every single blind spot. Crew members have admitted that certain areas, like lower decks, remote stairwells, and behind-the-scenes service corridors, aren't always fully monitored. And when incidents happen in these quiet corners, evidence can be hard to pin down. Missing persons are one of the most chilling examples. Over the years, there have been cases of passengers who vanished at sea, never to be found. While cruise lines often claim the individual must have gone overboard, critics argue investigations aren't always thorough. Security teams are employed by the cruise company itself, not by independent authorities, so their priority is often protecting the brand's reputation. That means some situations are handled quietly, with little information shared publicly. Even theft and assaults can slip through the cracks. If your wallet goes missing, security may review footage, but unless there's crystal clear evidence, the case can fade away fast. And remember, crimes that happen in international waters fall under complicated maritime law. Depending on where the ship is registered, the investigation may not even involve your home country's police. Crew members themselves aren't immune either. Some former staff reveal that smuggling, black market trading, or even behind-the-scenes fights between crew members happen out of sight. Officially, everything looks smooth. Unofficially, problems are often resolved internally and quietly, with passengers none the wiser. So what can you do as a passenger? Be alert. Treat your key card like a credit card. It gives access to your cabin, so don't lose it. Use the cabin safe for valuables and avoid wandering into isolated areas late at night. Most cruises are perfectly safe, but awareness is your best protection. The bottom line? Security exists, but it's not perfect. Cruise lines want you to feel safe, and for the most part, you are. But behind the polished image, ships are more vulnerable than they seem, and being cautious could make all the difference. Number 8. Onboard medical care has limits. When you step onto a cruise ship, it feels like a floating city. Restaurants, theaters, pools, even shopping malls. So it's natural to assume that if you get sick, the ship's medical center will function like a full hospital. Unfortunately, that assumption can be dangerously misleading. Former medical staff explain that cruise infirmaries are designed for basic care, not emergencies. Think of it as a small, urgent care clinic rather than a trauma center. The ship usually has one doctor and a few nurses, but their equipment is limited. They can handle seasickness, stomach bugs, fevers, or minor injuries like sprains and cuts. But if something serious happens, like a heart attack, stroke, or major accident, their options are narrow. Defibrillators, oxygen tanks, and basic X-ray machines may be on board, but advanced surgical facilities usually aren't. And while doctors are licensed, their training and experience vary depending on the cruise line and where they were recruited. Some passengers have reported excellent care, while others felt their condition was underestimated until it became critical. Here's the catch. If your condition goes beyond what the ship can handle, the only solution is evacuation. That could mean diverting the entire ship to the nearest port, delaying thousands of passengers, or arranging a helicopter airlift, which is logistically complex and staggeringly expensive. Former crew have seen passengers build tens of thousands of dollars for emergency evacuations, costs that weren't fully covered by their insurance. Even less dramatic situations can become tricky. Imagine running out of prescription medication mid-cruise. Ships stock only a limited supply of common drugs. If your prescription isn't on the list, you may be out of luck until the next port, assuming the country even carries what you need. So, what's the takeaway? Before cruising, always pack extra medication, bring copies of prescriptions, and strongly consider travel insurance that covers medical evacuation. Know that while basic care is available, serious cases depend on getting you off the ship as quickly as possible. At the end of the day, cruise lines want to keep you safe and healthy, but understanding the limitations of onboard medical care could save you from unpleasant and very costly surprises. Number 9. Hidden gems. Onboard. Most passengers step onto a cruise ship and head straight for the obvious attractions, the main pool, the buffet, the theater, or maybe the casino. And while those spots are fun, crew insiders say the real magic of a ship often hides in the places that don't appear on the glossy brochures. Every vessel has its secret corners. Some are intentionally tucked away, while others are simply overlooked because passengers follow the crowd. Former staff describe quiet observation decks that don't show up on the ship's map, perfect for sunrise or stargazing without the noise of the main decks. Some lounges are positioned just off busy corridors, yet almost nobody goes inside, leaving them cozy and nearly private. A few ships even have unmarked doors leading to outdoor decks that only crew and curious explorers ever seem to find. Then there are the hidden venues. On newer megaships, designers sometimes build secret cocktail bars or speakeasy-style lounges that aren't advertised. You only hear about them if a crew member drops a hint, or if you happen to stumble across them by accident. And those who do discover them often rave that the atmosphere feels completely different. Quieter, friendlier, more personal, like you've unlocked a secret level of the cruise. Timing is another hidden gem in itself. Most people think the pool, hot tubs, and gym are always crowded, but there's one trick. Enjoy them when the ship is in port. While thousands of passengers are ashore exploring, you'll practically have the entire deck to yourself. Imagine soaking in a hot tub with no one around or lifting weights in a gym that feels private. It's a completely different experience, and don't forget the crew. If you're kind and respectful, many staff are happy to share their favorite secret spots. One former bartender confessed he used to tip off friendly passengers about the quietest coffee bar on the ship. A cabin steward once revealed a tucked-away balcony where sunsets looked twice as stunning. These little gifts of insider knowledge often make the cruise feel more personal and unforgettable. So the next time you're on board, don't just follow the crowd. Wander, explore, and ask polite questions. Behind the noise and the neon lights, there are peaceful corners waiting for you to find them. And discovering those hidden gems might just become the highlight of your entire trip. If you enjoyed this Cruise Currents video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next voyage.